So today I'm going to talk about the different striping combinations on the 1967 through 1969 Camaro, the first generation of Camaro, what stripes were available and which ones you commonly see and what they're referred to and what they look like. So in 1967, the SS cars got the what's referred to as the bumblebee stripe, the one around the nose cone. And there would be a little gap in there that said SS, if obviously because it's an SS car. In 1968, the same D91 stripe was available around the nose cone, but the gap would say 350 or 396, depending on what engine option your car has. And then in January of 1968, they came out with the D90 stripe, which would be half of a bumblebee and then a stripe going down the side of the car. That one was D90. And then in 1969, the D90 stripe was inverted, commonly referred to as the hockey stick. So it would go up from the bottom of the fender and then down the side of the car instead of the other way around. In 1968, it went up, down, so it looks like a hockey stick. And then, of course, you have the Z28 stripes, which were, two fatter stripes down the center of the car all the way back, right? Also used on the pace cars. And as far as optionals go, in 1967, the D91 stripe became available on non-SS and obviously non-Z28 cars, except the gap would say RS for Rally Sport, or there would be no gap. So if you didn't order SS or Rally Sport, it was just a regular Camaro, there would be no gap. In 1968, D90 became available on any car that was not a Z28. You could get the half nose cone stripe down the side of the car on any car as long as it wasn't a Z28. And then in 1968, D91, the bumblebee stripe around the nose cone, became available on non-SS and non-Z28 cars, but the gap would be reserved for either 250 or 327. If you ordered the 230 engine, there was no gap, so it was a solid, once again, it was another solid stripe around the nose of the car. And then D96 became available, which was essentially a pinstripe all the way down the side of the car. Nothing fancy, just a stripe all the way down the side of the car. Not thick, just single stripe, pinstripe all the way down the side. And then D91 and D96 could also be ordered together. So you would get the nose cone wraparound and the pinstripe, but you didn't get D90 and D96 together because obviously the D90 stripe, half nose cone side stripe, would cover up the D96 pinstripe all the way down. And then in 1969, D90, the hockey stick, became available on non-SS cars. And then DX1 also became available on non-SS cars and non-Z28 cars, which was one of my favorites. It's two smaller stripes down the top of the hood, and then it transferred into kind of a bumblebee stripe. So you'd have two thinner stripes slowly opening up, and then the bumblebee stripe down the side. Very cool looking stripe. It just wasn't the SS stripe, the hockey stick, the more popular one. And then D96, the little pinstriping changed from, instead of in 1968, it was a pinstripe all the way down the side of the car. In 1969, it followed the wheel arches. So it was a stripe that came off the wheel arches and went down the side. And then the rear wheel arch came up, followed the wheel arch, and went down the side. And then for a bonus stripe, in December of 1968, there was a stripe called D88 multicolored stripe, which was a bumblebee stripe across the nose that was multicolored. So if you had, supposedly if you had a blue car, it was different shades of blue or red or orange or whatever, different shades of red and orange, etc. It was canceled shortly after, and I've never been able to find definitive proof that they ever officially made it onto a car. I do, however, I should be showing you a picture right here of an example of a couple of cars that I found with the stripe. But, pictures go back years and years and years on the internet, and those are the only two that I've ever been able to really find, and I have no way of knowing if they're legitimate or not. But those are two examples that I have seen. But as far as I know, or as far as I've read, it was never officially on a car, so those may have been like protos or replicas or whatever. But there was a stripe that not a lot of people know about, and it's called the D88 multicolored stripe, and it was canceled shortly after it hit the order book. So there's your striping for 1967 through 1969. Hope that helps. If not, leave a comment and let me know if you have any more questions.